We haven't discovered any new aesthetic truth that in this context of 21st century, all art must be about ex-presidential meat consumption. We've just gotten stuck in a bad equilibrium, insofar as there's a such thing as art, as opposed to mere sophistication. Shouldn't its chief job be to escape? Yes, and yes to that one about the escaping thing. The chief job of art is to escape, and but I also think that the other thing, no, as that we're at a bad equilibrium. I don't know how much time do we need here? I like the idea. I think it's good that we want to progress, and we want to progress faster, right? We do need to progress. We don't need to. I like progress, and I want to progress, and I want us to progress faster, okay? So the job of art is to escape these sort of equilibriums and local minima, to use the sort of rationalist language that I don't like. Yes, we want to create new knowledge. Art is a play of knowledge. It's about creating new knowledge and presenting the best available knowledge, putting them into new contexts, and making progress and evolution of our knowledge there. That is the chief job of art. We want to create new knowledge. We want beauty to grow. Yes. So we should be trying to escape. Also, we're talking about 21st century art. It's been about 30 years in the 21st century. I don't know how quickly we need to progress art. Like, I don't think we need to be like immediately making quick changes. I mean, it'd be good if we can. Not to say that we shouldn't. I want it. I do want us to. But there's no reason to be like denigrating people who haven't made progress that quickly. We're in the 21st. We've had film for almost 150 years, right? I mean, that's the stretch, right? Maybe 110 years, or maybe I should be saying. We've had film for about 100 years. The fact that we haven't progressed film in the last 10 years greatly is not like this crazy flaw or this terribly bad thing. It's only been 100 years. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Okay, but is Homer the first poem ever written? It's one of the earliest poems. So of course it's going to capture a lot of new knowledge, and it's going to be impactful for all poems after. And similarly, like early film, of course, is going to capture a lot of new knowledge, and it's going to affect all film afterwards. It's going to take some time to be able to create something new that's also going to affect all the film after, and it's going to be this wide-reaching knowledge. It takes time to create wide-reaching knowledge, aesthetic knowledge, just as well as scientific knowledge or any other type of knowledge. It takes time to create it. So while it's good to be in a hurry, I want to be in a hurry. I do want to intensify our progress, artistic progress. And we can shoot into infinity because we can. And we can do it. I don't think that we're like stagnated in terms of our progress with art. That's all I want to say. Okay. The Angel of History. I want to look more in detail into Frank Lantz reply to my post about taste in the AI Turing test. Lantz basically says this: yes, the AI Turing test was an interesting examination of one aspect of art. The picture itself can be abstracted into a 600 by 400 JPEG, but real art is situated in the world. It comes from an artist, is painted on some medium, and displayed in some gallery. There's discussion about it, and it sits in a particular historic moment and alters the stream of artistic history in some distinct way. Man, I don't like that. It's interesting because there's some parts of it I do like, and there's some parts of it I don't like. I don't think that art needs to be displayed in a gallery. I don't think that art needs to have this discussion about it. I don't think that who cares about the particular historical movement? Who cares about the history of the particular person? I don't like it. I don't like it. The reason why I'm saying that is interesting is I don't like that. But you could, on the face of it, think that I'm thinking. You could, on the face of this, say that this part is somehow similar to the eating part, the food part, that your food is kind of situated in an environment, and there's some similarity there that needs to be untangled at some point, which I won't do currently. That there's some similarity there that should be untangled because it can seem like a conflict of ideas. I don't think it was a conflict, but I don't want to try to untangle it at the moment. Okay, let's read what Frank Lantz says. The meaning and purpose of an individual work of art is inextricably the meaning and purpose of an individual work of art is inextricably linked to its context. You know what that word means. I'm not going to pronounce it properly. To the situation within which it was created, and to other works of art that came before it, besides it, and after it, and which form a larger conversation of which it was a part of. This is true of the 18,000-year bison drawings of cave paintings and Renaissance church frescoes. Those are the paintings on the architecture. And Dada collages and Warhammer 40K. That's a game, fan art, and everything else. Okay. It is true, I'm giving my commentary here. It is absolutely true that works of art are adapted for a particular niche, and they were created to be adapted in a particular niche. But it is not true that they are only apply to that particular niche that they were adapted to. They have reach outside. The beauty has reach beyond the particular niche that it was adapted to. The beauty has reach. So I think it is a gigantic mistake to say that because the work of art was adapted to a particular niche, that it should be only viewed in context of that particular niche and only restricted to that particular niche. No, the beauty has reach outside of the niche that it was created in. We care about the niche. We care about the beauty that reaches beyond the niche that it was created in. We need the knowledge to be wider reaching. Okay. In fact, back to the reading. In fact, this is a point that has, in one way or another, been at the heart of art as a project for over a century, wrestled with by the very people who make up this clique, and for whom the codes and signals and the profound and sacred activity they represent or simulate or obscure they've become the subject of endless, obsessive, self-critical fascination. How else do you explain Jeff Koons? How do you explain Andy Warhol? I don't know. Jeff Koons just kind of has cool. I don't understand his work being bad. It's just cool. He's the one who did the balloon. How do you explain it? Okay, whatever. When you look at art as a project, you recognize that Koons and Warhol before him and Duchamp before him were themselves wrestling with the kinds of questions raised by this very quiz, the quiz of the AI Turing test. Questions about the relationship between art and the JPEG, between what art purports to do and what is actually doing, between the serious pursuit of profound and sacred truths and the speculative market in tax-avoidant, ultra-luxury hyper-objects, between tacky, obscene wealth and abject hipster coolness, between looking as optical experience and looking as a social ritual, between a bunch of recursive cerebral puzzles about the structure and limits of meaning and a bunch of pictures that may or may not make you feel like a single tingle in the bathing suit area, between philosophy and decoration, between what kinds of image making can be and cannot be automated, between the irreducible particularities of the trembling human hand and the generalizing universality of the formal symbol manipulation and the capacity of either to gesture at, point at, grasp, or transmit the infinite. That sentence does not conclude, it continues, but we're going to stop at that sentence and continue later in the section. That was a nice long sentence there. He concludes, I would like to be able to defend art, fine art, modern art as a project in terms that would be convincing, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. Perhaps as a preliminary sketch of a defense, I would start by calling attention to the dynamic nature of art, its necessary and unavoidable relentlessness, Every work of art is both embedded within a process of perception, reaction, evaluation, and interpretation, and also an invention into this process. Think of, at a basic level, the relationship of an artist to their audience. The artist's desire to make something that is both genuinely new and recognizably good. The audience's desire to see something that they can understand and appreciate, and at the same time, their aversion to the formulaic, the rote, and the predictive, the corny. This is the process at the heart of creativity, a process which, by its very nature, is recursive, dialogical, even, in a way, adversarial. And it's deeply relevant to a number of important issues within the general scope of the rationalist project, as I see it. The reach of limits of formal systems, our ability to recognize, avoid, and extract ourselves from the collective traps in behaviors in the behavioral space, and the origin of the evolution of values, value drift, of meta values, coherent, extrapolated volition, prediction markets, the alignment problem, and all of the complicated theoretical and practical questions about how to make a loving, joyful, interesting world without using lies and superstition and fear. How to be embedded in a system and at the same time outside of it, looking at it and looking out of it. My guy likes run-on sentences, and I kind of like them too. They're kind of, you feel the passion when you build them up. Okay. I like the idea that, of course, the work of art, you want to make something that is new but recognizable, and then the people want to be able to recognize it but not so easily recognize it that it's corny. That adversarial idea is good. And of course, the idea I think about when I think about new knowledge, if you create new knowledge, it cannot be evaluated by existing standards. So your audience is always going to have a little bit of a pushback at first because they don't have a way of appreciating it, because they don't have the standards to replicate or evaluate a work of art, or the beauty embedded in the work of art. So I like that part that guy said. He offers as an example Paul Klee's Angelus Novus, which I agree is an inspired example. I'd actually heard of this one before. In the same context, Lantz uses it. Art historian Walter Benjamin wrote a spectacular commentary on it. There's a painting by Klee called Angelus Novus. An angel is depicted there who looks as though he were about to distance himself from something which he is staring at. His eyes are open wide, his mouth stands open, and his wings are outstretched. In the angel of history must look just so. His face is turned toward the past, where he can see the appearance of the chain of events. He sees one single catastrophe, which unceasingly piles rubble on top of rubble and hurls it before his feet. He would like to pause for a moment so far, to awaken the dead and to piece together what has been smashed. But a storm is blowing from paradise. It has caught itself up in his wings, and is so strong that the angel can no longer close them. The storm drives him irresistibly to the future, to which his back is turned, while the rubble heap before him grows sky high. That which we call progress is this storm. I'm not usually one for art history, but Benjamin has caught me. As a writer, I tip my hat to him. I will never compose a paragraph this good. If Angelus Novus can speak commentary like this, surely it, and the artistic project itself, is deeply valuable. I don't see that. I don't see it. Like it is interesting. I do like I don't like it, but it's an interesting metaphor. I don't particularly like it because I don't agree with it. But I like how it was expressed in the paragraph, and I haven't seen the painting before, so I don't know what the painting looks like. I don't think that a painting's ability to express that is the thing that's important about the painting. For one main reason, because the paragraph that we just saw express everything that the painting is expressing. And so if the expression of it itself was the whole project, then you could just as easily express it with you could just as easily express it with words as you could with the painting. And in fact, you would be more efficiently expressing it with the words than the painting, because not everybody who saw the painting saw that expression of this like history blowing, the angel looking towards history, being shocked and being blown into the future, or whatever it is. Except that I guarantee you that you will not be prepared for the actual Angelus Novus painting. Whatever you imagine it to be, it is not that. I read Benjamin's commentary first, and I Googled Angelus Novus second, and I thought somebody was playing some kind of prank. Better if you had never seen it, and it kept the beauty of Benjamin's prose unsullied in my mind. It's still, if you insist on looking at it, you can see it here. I guess I'm going to click the link. I'm going to click the link. All right, let's click the link. Oh, okay. That's interesting. It's definitely not what I was imagining. Is his mouth even open? Okay. 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 That's very funny. All right. And so still, as I said, I don't think I don't think art is about the sort of social commentary that you can embed in it. I mean, you can embed it social commentary. You can embed anything into works of art. It's universal. You can embed any messages into it, and that's totally fine. But that's not the whole point of it. Is not to be able to embed certain things. And as is evidenced here, I do think that the paragraph was way more. The paragraph that described the message of the painting was much more efficient at actually conveying that message than the painting is at conveying the message. If a food critic writes a restaurant review that rings with the beauty of Byron or Shakespeare, if it praises the food as ably as Handel, a Handel oratorio praises God. That's a musical thing? If a food critic writes a restaurant review that rings with the beauty of Byron or Shakespeare, if it praises the food as ably as a Handel oratorio praises God, and then you eat there and it's lukewarm slop, how many Michelin stars should that restaurant get? Can we give it a star for being a part of a cultural thread that ends in greatness? Or is the betrayal of the food critic's solemn duty? Am I revealing myself as an autistic high decoupler for even worrying about this? Well, I think this is a slightly separate thing here, because you can have a food review that is just as much art as the food that it's eating, right? The description of a work of art is a derivative of the work of art. So you can have things that are derivative of the work of art, and those are in themselves works of art. So if you have a food critic that praises food in such a grand way, that would be a work of art in itself. It will also change how you appreciate the food in itself. You can start to see different things in it. But even if you don't like it, then you just don't like it. It doesn't mean that you've like betrayed the work of art. But you haven't betrayed the food, or the writer hasn't betrayed their duty, I don't think. Even if you think that the dialectic and being part of the conversation is important, which I don't, it's obnoxious and in some sense parasitic to demand that it occupy the same part of semantic space as sensory delight. Imagine that you go to a restaurant and the food tastes terrible. When you complain to the chef, he objects, but this is in response to Mario Alberti's famous meal in 1947 or 74, trying to demonstrate that the difference between lasagna and tortellini is only in your mind. Then you catch that juxtaposition between the cloves and truffle salt represents that the juxtaposition between fascism and the superego. I think a reasonable response is to wish the chef good luck with whatever he's trying to do, but to suggest that he make more of an effort to advertise that he isn't doing the normal thing where people are trying to make food that tastes good. Okay. Back to what I was saying before, if a person is making something new, it's always going to not match the existing standards. So you're going to have to learn some things, or you're going to have some sort of like tension when you learn it. And it's going to contradict some things about what you expect in life already. So if you have a work of art that presents new knowledge, or if you have food that presents new knowledge, it's going to contradict some things. It's going to be difficult to appreciate it immediately. I don't think that's a problem. And I don't think that, you should be hurt by that. Though in this example, he's giving a specific example and saying that it does taste bad, and he's only talking about some sort of like Social commentary, yeah, okay, who cares about that? I think that the proper approach is to not care about it. You can't improve, there's no progress to be had with social commentary. You're just talking about history, and there's no progress to be made with just recreating history or just talking about history. Recounting a series of events cannot be improved. Like, there's a hard limit to how precisely you can describe those events, and it has no reach into anything else, so it doesn't matter. But if you were to do something new, whatever you're doing new, you're going to have people who don't understand it because they don't have the standards to appreciate it already. They don't have the knowledge already to be able to replicate it because it's something new. It's the nature of something being new. Okay. And I don't think you have to advertise that you're not doing the normal thing where you make food that tastes good, but whatever. I agree mostly anyway. Okay. This was my original objection in the architecture review too. It's cute that architects can argue with each other about the nature of socialism in a unique language made entirely of housing projects. I just would also like to be able to go outside and see something other than concrete boxes. If the whimsical adversarial philosophical point scoring game has the same name as creating beautiful things game, everyone will get confused and only one of them can survive. This is a sort of a steelman argument against cultural appropriation. This is sort of like a steelman argument against cultural appropriation. If Native Americans were doing the traditional rain dance and white people rip it off and create some new hip form called the rain dance, which goes viral and makes millions of dollars, then the conceptual beacon becomes so confused that the traditional rain dancers can no longer coordinate with each other. Any institution they form quickly gets infiltrated by a separate competing tradition that doesn't even realize it's a separate competing tradition. This is especially true if the white people keep rolling their eyes and saying, oh, that rain dance is so 5 years ago. You don't realize that we've moved beyond and all rain dances are trance, synthwave, techno rain dance now. Interesting. Interesting. I really don't like the idea of cultural appropriation. Like, I like that we can take knowledge from different contexts and put them in new contexts and see how they work. And I don't like the idea of having a culture make some knowledge and then restricting that knowledge to that particular culture. You cannot restrict knowledge to a particular environment. You can't restrict beauty into a particular environment, and you can't hide an environment from beauty. You know, the beauty is going to permeate through it. The reach of the beauty goes through all barriers. So I feel like I'm being too poetic when I'm saying that. Anyway, I don't like this idea of cultural appropriation. I don't think this is a good stillman. If Native Americans are making a rain dance and it actually has any knowledge embodied in it that has reach, then white people should also be able to do that rain dance and then improve upon it and progress. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe you want to have the ability to distinguish them. Sure, whatever. Okay. The eternal return of the dolphin pancreas baby. Pancreas, yeah. But fine, whatever. Grant that all art is historically informed commentary on the nature of art. I still think that it is bad commentary that fails to say interesting things. The 500th dissected shark in formaldehyde or equivalent just doesn't add much to the conversation. I really don't understand why people don't like Damien Hirst. Like, what is it about Damien Hirst's work of putting animals in formaldehyde that people just don't like? Like, it's, first of all, it looks cool, so there's just that. Second of all, there's progress to be made. You can preserve animals. You can do taxidermy on animals in different ways. You can pose them in different ways. You can frame them in different ways. So the thing that I like most about the Damien Hirst formaldehyde, sculptures is that you have a framing. So something I like about sculpture and I like about visual arts is that you have frames and you can harmonize the subject that you have, that you're drawing or that you're sculpting. You can harmonize it with the frame. But most sculptures do not have the frame actually clearly identified by actually having a frame. They're mostly open air sculptures. So to be able to actually draw the frame and have the frame around it so that you can more easily see how the sculpture harmonizes with the frame is interesting already, and then you could have more progress there. So with the animals in formaldehyde or pickled sheep, you have that already. You have the framing. So now you can position the sheep or the shark or whatever in the formaldehyde in the frame, and now you have this sort of framing, and you have better and worse framing, and you can improve that. So there you have some, limited ability of progress. And then now you have the framing, and then you can have like the actual color of the frame can harmonize with the subject. You have the color of the liquid that can harmonize with the subject. So you have all these different things. And then you have the added addition of here you have the dissected nature. So Damien Hirst has sometimes dissected sheep or dissected sharks or dissected cows. And then you can dissect them and then put them into different formaldehyde solutions. And now you have all this different, like, how does it harmonize with the right and the left? Is it going to always be equal? Are you going to have them be on the same, level playing field? There are different things that you can do, and those can be improved. On top of that, you have animals that are preserved in some way. You can pose them, right? And you can have multiple different animals. So he has one that's of a unicorn, which is, it's obviously not a unicorn, it's a horse. Maybe it's not that obvious. He has one of a horse, and he has added a horn to it, so it looks like a unicorn. He's got one of a cow that has like a what do you call it? A rooster on top of it. There's so many different things that you could do. Now you have this like infinite world of different things that you can do to improve or progress in this field of taxidermy. It's like improving taxidermy. I can't see how this is a bad thing. I don't understand why people think this is bad. What is the problem with putting an animal in formaldehyde? And then he's able to figure out how to pose it. And there's a lot of progress that can happen there. Now, is there infinite progress? Okay, maybe there's not. I don't know. I'm not sure. We haven't figured that out. I think probably not. I suspect there isn't infinite progress to be made there. But there's some progress to be made there. And maybe you can find some new things and whatever. Anyway, I just don't understand why people don't like Damien Hirst. And then on top of that, that's only some of Damien Hirst's work. I don't know if some people don't like Damien Hirst himself. Some people don't like the particular style of sculpture when he made those sculptures, but they are fine with his other works. I'm just confused by the whole hatred of this particular modern art. I'm also just confused by the hatred of all modern art, but we don't need to get into that. I'm just a little triggered by seeing this. Okay. And I think it's fine to say that more sharks in formaldehyde does not add to the conversation. True, I agree to that. I don't even care about the conversation of art. Who cares? Is it presenting more new knowledge? Probably not. The fact of the formaldehyde presents some knowledge. You can progress the knowledge in some interesting ways, but seeing the same derivative works are not showing new knowledge. Does that mean that they're worthless? No, it doesn't. They still embody knowledge that is worthwhile knowledge to be presented and embodied and showed. There's nothing wrong with derivative works of art. You can have, I would love if Beethoven wrote 30 symphonies or 100 symphonies, or we had other derivatives that were similar to Beethoven. There's nothing wrong with continuously showing the same knowledge. Okay. My understanding of this, and from the little art history that I've read, including this review, my understanding of this and from the little art history that I've read suggests that artists thought that the traditional forms were played out. There was nowhere to go with poetry that rhymes, nowhere left to go with heavily ornamented buildings, nowhere left to go with representational painting. The ancients might have been able to combine beauty and novelty, but they picked all the low-hanging fruit. That's totally not true. And now all that's left is to mechanically go through a checklist of things that have never been done before. Yeah, that's okay. People make this argument. In 1920s, declaring a urinal, declaring a fountain, a urinal, to be a work of art has never been done before, but Duchamp ruined that one. So I guess the next step is to put sharks in formaldehyde. Okay, again, we don't like Damien Hirst. We don't like Duchamp either. He's an amazing artist. But side note, whatever, we'll just go, we'll skip past the triggering. Okay, I'm triggered, we'll skip past it. Next year, it'll be, I don't know, a baby with a dolphin pancreas on its head. People will say the same boring things. This challenges us to ask whether a baby with a dolphin pancreas on its head can truly be art. The answer may surprise you. Some rich person will buy it for $200 million as a part of a tax evasion scheme. The people who scoff at the baby pancreas dolphin will get told that by expressing an opinion at all, they're participating in exactly the same kind of conversation that the baby pancreas dolphin was meant to evoke, and therefore retroactively vindicating its existence. I admit that I cannot personally figure out some way to marry beautiful and novelty into a greater whole, which both Michelangelo and Salvador Dali would admit are worthy successors to their representative traditions. Well, who cares what Michelangelo and Salvador Dali think? It's not about the person who thinks the thing. That doesn't really matter. We don't really have the right conventions made up yet. We don't have the proper approach to the tradition to allow for the growth of knowledge and beauty. So it doesn't really matter what any particular individual in any tradition thinks about art or knowledge or beauty. This is why I'm not some tortured genius living in a flat in Paris with only a crust of bread, a canvas, and a personality disorder to my name. But if you are that person, surely there's nothing more valuable you could be doing with your life. Surely, even if you fail, this is a worthier goal than drawing your next marmoset with vodka. Could a marmoset drowned in vodka really be art? The answer may surprise you. I think this is true, what he's saying here. It is a very worthy goal to figure out how to describe the tradition or to marry the whatever it is that Michelangelo is doing and whatever Salvador Dali is doing. There is something worthwhile to reconcile that and talk about how to actually make art a worthwhile endeavor, how to actually describe what is happening with the knowledge and works of art and why we're doing it and why it's important and why it's relevant. I think that's really worthwhile, and that's why I'm doing it. That's all I care about. That's all I think about all day. There is nothing worthier than that, I think, personally, for me. Which might explain why I am so unemployed. Your support on Patreon goes directly towards the progression of beauty for all of humanity into the indefinite future. The most important, the most valuable, the most worthy endeavor I know of. And you can be a part of it too for just a few dollars a month. Link is in the description. This is why I find it so obnoxious when people say things like, you wish that the concrete cube looked like a beautiful Gaudi building? Aha! You falling into a trap. Don't you realize that Gaudi himself was trying to break from the stale tradition and expand his horizons and what was possible? Yes, I do realize that. But he was good at it and you are bad at it. And this is true. Gaudi's architecture is amazing. A concrete cube, not much progress that can be made there. Okay. If you can't figure out how to do it well, stick with the stale stuff within the existing horizon and wait however long it takes for the next genius to come along. All right. I like the conclusion. I'm on board with the passion that he's feeling there. I get sense the passion. He doesn't like these people who like modern art. And I don't like some of the modern art. But I think some of it's great. And I think some of it's unfairly deriled or whatever. There is knowledge embodied in works of art, and we can find that knowledge and see it being wide-reaching knowledge and improve that knowledge and progress that knowledge. And there's nothing wrong with being derivative. If you have the greatest knowledge available to you, use the greatest knowledge available to you. It's fantastic to put that knowledge into new context. It's great to make new works of art using the same old knowledge that has already been created. Keep doing that. Why not? You want your knowledge, the beauty that is embodied in works of art, to apply to many different contexts. And we can just continuously show those many different contexts by putting into those new contexts. That's a great thing to do. Not a problem. You don't need to ignore the tradition, or what I really want to say is you don't need to, and you should not abandon the existing knowledge, because the existing knowledge is good. Okay, Scott Alexander, everybody. Thank you, Scott Alexander. That was a great article, great double feature that we just read through. I think he gets a couple things not so right. I think he's identifying a lot of things that other people are also getting not so right. And there are different ways to approach this. and see that taste is something that is real, can be improved, is objective, can lead to progress, and we can objectively evaluate works of art as good and beautiful and leading to progress. But it does not mean that you need to be wrong for appreciating works of art that are bad or that have knowledge in it that is narrow-reaching knowledge. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you understand the context in which the beauty in that work of art will replicate, and it will replicate into your mind and cause transformations to you and not to other people. And that's totally fine. You want to be able to identify that. But really, the important thing about art is to find wide-reaching knowledge that applies to many different types of minds and to many different types of works of art. Okay, I've said what I have to say. Thanks for watching. Wow, look at this. The fact there's 772 comments. He's really starting up a conversation here, and that's really good. I wish I could start a conversation like that. I'm not as good of a writer as he is. I don't think I'm as, he gave a lot of good examples. I want to learn how to give some good examples. And I guess I'm not as inflammatory or something. You know, I don't have that sort of, the sort of, the spark that will cause other people to be, you know, inflamed and want to write some things. You know, not that he's being intentionally contrarian or like trying to trigger people, but like he's speaking in a way that is actually causing people to think things, which is good. Anyway, I like the work that he's done so far here. I don't think he focuses on aesthetics or whatever, but this work, at least these two series and the few things that he's other things that he's done, admirable work. I like it a lot. I'm happy to see it. So I want more of that. I think he's done well. He's done good. He's done well. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Remember to check out my Patreon. Choose the tier that you can support, and let's deepen our understanding of aesthetics together.